good evening and welcome to the news tonight here on Rajya TV. I'm Tracy Shilshi, and in the next 30 minutes, I'll be taking you through the day's top stories from India and across the world. Let's start with the headlines. Halfway into the Bihar Assembly elections, over 50% voters turn up for the third phase, a crucial point for 50 seats spread over 6 districts. Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds bilateral meetings with heads of the participating African nations. Talks focus on creating consensus on major issues between India and Africa. After writers, filmmakers now join the protests against rising intolerance in the country. 10 eminent filmmakers returned their national awards. Nepal elects its first woman president. Vidya Devi Bhandari of the ruling CPN-UML is elected by a margin of over 100 votes. And General Pervez Musharraf lays bare Pakistan's worst-kept secret, admits that successive Pakistani governments trained Lashkar-e-Toiba and treated Hafiz Saeed and Lakhvi as heroes. But first, news from Bihar. Over 50% of the 1.45 crore eligible voters cast their vote today for the third phase of polling. Prominent candidates included 2 sons of Rashtriya Janata Dal chief Lalu Prasad, who contested from Raghopur and Mahua constituencies of Vaishali district. Voting came to an end at 5 p.m. with no untoward incident reported. Here are more details.
Voting for the third phase of elections in Bihar began at 7 a.m. in the morning. The fate of 808 candidates in 50 constituencies spread over 6 districts was sealed earlier on Wednesday. The districts that went to polls are Bhojpur, Buxar, Nalanda, Patna, Saran and Vaishali.
Overall, the average turnout is 53.32%. And secondly, till now, till the third phase, the turnout is over 54%.
The fate of several heavyweights was sealed in this phase, including that of Lalu Prasad's 2 sons, Tej Pratap Yadav and Tejasvi Yadav, contesting from Mahua and Raghopur seats respectively.
पूरा महागठबंधन बिहार के 5 चरण में स्वीप कर रहा है। इसमें भाजपा खास करके नरेंद्र मोदी जी लगातार कमल कार्ड खेल रहे हैं।
The other prominent politicians whose fate was decided in this round were BJP leader Nandkishore Yadav from Patna Sahib, Ministers Shyam Rajak and Shravan Kumar from Pulwari and Nalanda seats respectively, Deputy Speaker Amrendra Pratap Singh from Ara and BJP's Chief Whip in the State Assembly Arun Kumar Sinha from Kumrar.
मैंने अपना वोट डाल दिया है और वोट डालने के लिए हम यहाँ आए हैं और वोट डालने के बाद हम आगे के चुनाव प्रचार में निकल रहे हैं। सभी मतदाताओं को अपना वोट डालना।
Apart from the heavyweights in the fray, there were several other bigwigs who cast their vote, including Chief Minister Nitish Kumar, BJP leader Sushil Modi, and Union Ministers Ravi Shankar Prasad and Rajiv Pratap Rudy, among others.
तीसरे चरण में मेरा विश्वास है कि ये 3/4 की बहुमत तक जाएगा और हर हालत में बिहार में सरकार बनाएंगे। ममता जी आ जाएं, अरविंद केजरीवाल आ जाएं, कोई अपील कर इनकी अपील का कोई असर नहीं पड़ने वाला है।
In the last assembly poll in 2010, the JDU had won 23 seats while the BJP had won 19 of the 50 constituencies. This time around, from the Grand Secular Alliance, RJD contested from 25 seats, JDU 18 and Congress 7. From NDA, BJP contested from 34, LJP 10, Hindustani Awam Morcha 4 and Rashtriya Lok Samta Party 2. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
And now on to news from the ongoing India-Africa summit. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today held bilateral meetings with the visiting heads of some participating African nations. The focus remained largely on UNSC reforms, terrorism and trade, with Africa seeking India's assistance for capacity building in the defense sector.
On day 3 of the India-Africa Forum Summit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi held one-on-one meetings with heads of 19 participating African nations. Prominent among them being the presidents of South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana and Uganda. Though a brief one, the meeting was to decide the future course of the bilateral ties between India and the African continent. Issues like terrorism, climate change and UNSC reforms were also discussed. Meanwhile, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj also met her counterparts from 12 African nations. She said both India and the African region must boost trade to its maximum potential.
Trade and economic exchanges between India and Africa are a vital component of our all-round relationship with the rising continent. A total trade figure of about $72 billion in 2014-15 seems impressive, since it signifies more than a tenfold growth in a decade. However, it is still well below its potential, considering the size of India and Africa.
Indian companies have already invested over $32 billion in Africa, and bilateral trade between the two sides amounts to around $72 billion. And in a major boost to India's forceful push for UNSC reforms, Sudan has extended its support.
Reforming the UN, which was formed 70 years ago, and right now the composition and the rules that is governing the most important UN organs, including the UN Security Council, are not satisfactory to many countries, with Indians figuring in the world as an important economic and highly populated country.
There are also possibilities that India will increase its line of credit to African nations that currently stands at $9.4 billion as of now. However, much will depend on what type of political and strategic initiatives are decided on Thursday to assuage competing nations like China and Europe. With Akhilesh Suman, Bureau Inputs, Rajya Sabha TV.
In other news, filmmakers have joined the protests against the rising instances of intolerance in the country. 10 filmmakers returned their national awards today. Dibakar Banerjee, Paresh Kamdar and 8 other filmmakers returned their awards while extending support to the FTII students. Students of India's premier film institute are opposed to the appointment of Gajendra Chauhan as the institute's chairman. The filmmakers' move come on a day the FTII students unilaterally called off their 139-day-old stir, also declaring that peaceful protests would continue. Other film directors who returned their awards include Lipika Singh, Nishtha Jain, Anand Patwardhan, Kirti Nakhwa, Harsh Kulkarni and Hari Nair. The filmmakers also lodged their protest against the killings of rationalists Kalburgi and Pansare.
To give this protest a fair hearing and a fair solution. Through my humble return of this August award, and knowing fully well that I and we will be ridiculed and probably insulted and probably criticized for our actions, in all humility, I aim to speak for all Indians who want our classrooms to become a true source of learning and not of mediocrity.
Well, will this have, of course, more effect? More filmmakers, of course, resigning. We'll keep an eye out. But now on to another one of Modi government's top priorities, which was, of course, in the past year in power, has been improving the ease of doing business in India. And the government's initiative has got a big boost from the World Bank. In its report, Doing Business 2016, the World Bank says that the situation in India has improved quite a bit. This has helped India go 12 places up to the 130th spot.
India has jumped 12 places in the ranking for ease of doing business. A World Bank report says that in the ranking for 189 countries, India now stands at 130. World Bank's chief economist and senior vice president Kaushik Basu says a jump of 12 spots by an economy of India's size is a remarkable achievement. In the annual report Doing Business 2016, Singapore is at the top spot, followed by New Zealand, Denmark, South Korea, Hong Kong, Britain and the US. China is ranked 84 and Pakistan is at 138th place. However, the government feels that the ranking does not reflect the true picture.
This 12-point ranking doesn't really reflect the true ease which has come, because it is as of 1st June and those actions which have already been implemented. And therefore, there are a large number of steps which we have taken and are in the process of taking, which I think will be effectively represented in next year's rating.
The numbers given in the report paint a very positive picture. If it took 127 days to start a business in India in 2004, it takes only 29 days in 2015. In fact, India ranks in the top 10 in protecting minority investors at the 8th position. This is because Indian laws grant strong protection to minority shareholders. In the report, the World Bank says India has eliminated the requirements for a paid-in minimum capital and a certificate to commence business operations, which has significantly streamlined the process for starting a business. Improving India's ease of doing business ranking has been a focus area of the Narendra Modi government since it came to power in May 2014. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, the Supreme Court has categorically refused a ban on bursting firecrackers during Diwali. In a significant order, the Apex Court had said that it would be dangerous to infringe on the common man's right to enjoy his religious festivities. Chief Justice of India, H.L. Dattu, observed that if the court tries to enforce a ban, it would lead to a dangerous situation with people saying that it was their right to burst crackers outside their homes. Well, the court also dismissed arguments to prescribe a time limit and designate public places where people could burst crackers. However, the bench did ask the centre to spread more awareness about pollution levels by way of advertisements. The court has reiterated its 2005 order prescribing a time limit for bursting crackers to avoid causing disturbance to the public, especially late at night. The government is set to ban commercial surrogacy for foreigners in India. In an affidavit to the Supreme Court, it said surrogacy should be allowed only for Indian couples. If the decision is implemented, no foreigners can avail surrogacy services in India. The government also banned import of human embryos, except for research. A notification issued on Tuesday also proposed penalties on couples refusing to take custody of a surrogate child born with disabilities. A draft bill has been sent to states. Earlier this month, the court ordered the government to spell out measures to regulate the industry that exploits poor women. The case will be taken up next on the 24th of November. Now, at his first town hall event in India, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg said that his company was committed to net neutrality, even as he lent support for zero rating plans that violate the principles of a free internet. Here's a detailed report.
No matter what you do, you're going to make a ton of mistakes. I was a college student when I got started, right? I mean, I didn't know anything about business or hiring. You know, no one is born with these skills, right? So you learn them the same way that you learn everything else, right? Trial and error.
Under fire for Facebook's free basic program, its CEO Mark Zuckerberg telling the town hall audience at IIT Delhi that his firm will continue to lobby for net neutrality.
You know, net neutrality is an important principle, right? And we do a lot to support it, both in terms of pushing for regulation that kind of enables this, and I mean also just in our own work, building an open platform.
Activists have hit out at the Facebook's Internet.org platform for violating the principle of net neutrality. Criticism that Zuckerberg says is unfounded.
You know, Internet.org is, we've had this program to spread internet connectivity. It is live in more than 24 countries and growing around the world. And here's a new stat that we haven't shared before, is there are 15 million people around the world who have access to the internet now because of the efforts that we're taking with Internet.org, who wouldn't have had it otherwise. And
the Facebook CEO is also upbeat about his company's prospects in the Indian market, as well as his goal of connecting 1 billion people to the internet. India is the second largest user base for Facebook after the United States with 130 million users.
So our mission is to give everyone in the world the power to share what's important to them and to connect every person in the world. And India is the world's largest democracy. It's one of the biggest countries where if you really have a mission of connecting every person in the world, you can't do that without helping to connect everyone in India.
It was Zuckerberg's second visit to India. On Tuesday, he visited the Taj Mahal, a monument he called stunning and incredible what love can motivate us to build. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
With a quick break here, and still ahead, the UN condemns the US embargo on Cuba. Details after this break.
No reservation in super speciality courses. The Supreme Court stirs up a debate. What will it mean for affirmative action? will merit Trump political considerations? Watch The Big Picture at 9:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back to the news tonight. Now let's get you a surprising admission by former Pakistani President General Pervez Musharraf, which has come in fact as a big boost to India's efforts in making Pakistan admit that terror is a part of its state policy. In an interview, Musharraf said that Islamabad supported and trained groups like the Lashkar-e-Toiba in the 1990s to carry out militancy in Kashmir.
देखिए वहाँ एक फ्रीडम स्ट्रगल स्टार्ट हुई कश्मीर में 1990 में शुरू हुई वो उनको मारा गया बुरी तरह से इंडियन आर्मी ने मारा वो भागकर पाकिस्तान आ गए अब पाकिस्तान में फिर उनको हीरोज रिसेप्शन दी गई उनकी बिल्कुल ट्रेनिंग भी होती थी और हम उनके सपोर्ट में थे हम मुजाहिदीन लाए पूरी दुनिया से हमने तालिबान को ट्रेन किया उन्हें वेपन्स दिए उनको अंदर भेजा वो हमारे हीरो थे
ठीक है ये
जो हक्कानी है हीरो है हमारा जी
ठीक है
80s का हीरो है
बिल्कुल
ओसामा बिन लादेन हमारा हीरो था
CIA का भी था शायद
यस ये ज़वाहिरी हमारा हीरो था
Well, the former army chief also added that Lashkar leaders like Hafiz Saeed and Zakir Rahman Lakhvi were treated as heroes. Hafiz Saeed is in fact among India's most wanted men and often makes provocative anti-India speeches. Lakhvi, meanwhile, and 6 others accused are facing trial for executing the attack on November 26, 2008 that left 166 people dead in Mumbai.
You see, there is more than sufficient evidence now to show that Pakistan is promoting, supporting and exporting terrorism into India. And therefore, the government in Islamabad cannot get away by simply saying that these terrorists who infiltrate into India happen to be non-state actors according to them and therefore they are not responsible for it.
Well, for more on this story, we're joined by Smriti Gupta, who's a research fellow at the Institute for Defence Studies and Analysis, the IDSA. Smriti, this statement coming in, India, of course, saying that Pakistan's lie has been nailed. But, we have, of course, been hearing statements like this from former ISI operatives, from former, army generals as well. But now with, somebody like Pervez Musharraf coming out and making such statements, how crucial is this?
I think India always knew that these are the people who have been supported by the Pakistani state. So to that extent, I think the statement is not new or came as a new insight to what Pakistan has been doing for a very long time. So therefore, I feel in that context, the revelation is not new, but only the attestation by the former army chief is something probably which makes it very significant at this point of time when Pakistan is claiming that it is fighting the terrorist group and it is against terrorism. So therefore, in that context, I think it makes it a little, it's a very difficult that a country still continues to claim not, these people as its hero. And that is, I think, something which we need to take note of. Second thing I also would like to point out, if you look at Sheikh Rashid, who has been one of the ministers during Musharraf's regime, in 2005, in one of the meetings when he hosted some of the Kashmiri separatists, very clearly that point of time, Yasin Malik said that he is the person who actually liaison and actually was in fact behind, organizing the Kashmiri camps. So, these are the things which is not new. I think more and more probably, this kind of revelation just attests to the fact which India has been accusing for a very long time.
Yes.
And I'm sure the international community, including the United States, if you look at the WikiLeaks, where, some of the CIA emails, former CIA chief's email is now being revealed, it also shows that the Pakistan has been supporting terrorism. But what surprises me that, the former president of Pakistan, former chief of the army staff in Pakistan is going on record in the television and saying that these people are its heroes. So
that's right, Smriti. And let's not forget,
surprising.
he is a man who the West, in fact, feted, praised as, a key ally in the war against terror. This, of course, during his regime. And that was during the time, of course, when we had that 9/11 hypersensitive, situation all across the world. Forget just the US as well. And now, how do we see the West responding to this? How do we see the US responding to this?
Yeah, in fact, he was piloting the enlightened moderation when he was in power, especially, showing to the world that he is one of the most moderate president of Pakistan, and if he is going to be removed from power, then there will be, basically a radical kind of, people may take over. So that was basically his plea and asking for international support to undermine the democracy and support General Musharraf. I think the international community knows about it, but also at the same time, if one looks at that United States decision to actually keep the troops there, stationed till 2016, beyond 2016, I think they would be definitely needing Pakistan, as an ally. But taking that into account, and since there are many, there are many facts which the United States is very aware of and is, actually is in possession of many of these kind of facts, I think the United States need to take a note. And I think the joint statement, if you remember, which was agreed by President Obama and, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Nawaz Sharif, it very clearly had spoken about the Haqqani group and the elite. So therefore, I think the United States has taken into note. So in that context, I think Pervez Musharraf's revelation is not new, but only definitely the hero part, I find it
making it uncomfortable perhaps for the current government, Nawaz Sharif there. Thanks so much, Smriti Patnaik, for joining us on this story. We'll of course keep looking out for reactions on this, not just from the US and the West, but also from within the Pakistani government as well. But heading on to some more international news, and Nepal, in fact, today got its first woman president. Vidya Devi Bhandari from the ruling CPN-UML was elected today as the successor to Rambaran Yadav. She defeated her rival from Nepali Congress, Kul Bahadur Gurung, by more than 100 votes to become the first woman president of the Himalayan kingdom. Bhandari is the widow of popular communist leader Madan Bhandari. Meanwhile, the US has once again voted against the UN resolution on ending the embargo on Cuba. The UNGA voted overwhelmingly to adopt the resolution calling for ending the economic, commercial and financial embargo that has been in place for the past 24 years. The gradual shift to a near unanimous vote in favor of the years is a clear sign of the widespread disapproval of the US embargo on Cuba.
Despite warming of ties between the United States and Cuba over the past year, the United States still stands firmly in opposition to the UN resolution condemning arms embargo on Cuba. The UN General Assembly criticized the trade restrictions in an annual symbolic vote with 191 in favor, demonstrating Washington's isolation on the issue. While such resolutions are non-binding, they do carry political weight.
Hemos presentado un proyecto de resolución que refleja la realidad de la estricta y opresiva aplicación del bloqueo contra Cuba y que también saluda y reconoce en nuevos párrafos preambulares los progresos alcanzados en el último año.
Israel joined the US in voting no, despite initial discussions about abstaining.
Although normalization will be a long and complex road, we've made considerable progress. We regret, therefore, that the government of Cuba has chosen to proceed with its annual resolution. The text falls short of reflecting the significant steps that have been taken.
The resolution does welcome the renewed US-Cuba ties, also recognizing US President Barack Obama's will to end the embargo. But Cuba feels the rapprochement has not gone far enough.
The blockade against Cuba is a unilateral act of the US and should be lifted unilaterally without asking for anything in return. It's only up to the US to adopt the necessary measures to comply with the international law, as President Obama has said, to serve the national interests of the US, which will be benefited by the lifting of the blockade.
Cuba has always stressed that the lifting of the blockade is a prerequisite for normalizing ties. But Washington's opposition for the 24th year is only an indication as to how far the two still have to go before everything returns to normal. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
China has reacted sharply to a warship being deployed in the South China Sea. China says it has lodged a protest with the US ambassador, but despite the warning, the US says it will fly or sail anywhere that international laws allow. Pentagon officials say the US regularly conducts freedom of navigation operations around the world to challenge excessive maritime claims. The USS Lassen's patrol is the most significant US challenge yet to the 12 nautical mile territorial limits that China claims around the artificial islands.
We have said, and we are acting on the basis of saying that we will fly, sail, and operate wherever international law permits.
Did we send a destroyer yesterday inside the 12-mile zone of one of the...
that. There have been naval operations in that region in recent days, and there will be in the weeks and months.
Inside the 12-mile zone of a
I don't want to
built
comment
up
on a particular operation, but...
you don't want to comment? It's all over the press.
And now let's get you some action from the world of sports. Sania Mirza and Martina Hingis will play their second round-robin match of the WTA Finals in Singapore. The duo will take on the 7th-place Czech team. Sania and Hingis won their opening match against the American team. Petra Kvitova registered her first win at the WTA Finals in Singapore today. Kvitova defeated compatriot Lucy Safarova 7-5, 7-5 in straight sets. The victory also improved Kvitova's head-to-head record of 8-0 over Safarova. In another match, Garbine Muguruza also claimed a straight win over Angelique Kerber. 7 candidates will contest FIFA's presidential elections next year to replace the outgoing president Sepp Blatter. The list includes Michel Platini, Prince Ali bin Al Hussein, Gianni Infantino, Tokyo Sexwale, Moussa Bility, Jerome Champagne, and Sheikh Salman bin Ibrahim Al Khalifa. And that's all we could pack in on the news tonight. Thanks so much for joining us.